Hello there and welcome. Today we're going to continue working on our trivia game, and I just want to remind you that if you're still not subscribed, you can subscribe and get notified when new episodes come out. So for now we have our 5 scenes, but everything is still empty. We don't have any UI. So we're going to make sure that we are on our main menu scene. So first of all, we're going to right click UI image, and it will automatically create a canvas and an event system. So this is important if you want to handle clicks and things like that. And now we have this image. We're going to click over here. We're going to hold Alt, and then we're going to click over here, and this will basically expand the image to the entire view. Okay. Now we want to make sure that we build for mobile. So we want to look at it as the way we're going to see it in a mobile phone. So we're going to use this 16:9 aspect ratio portrait. And this is the view we're going to use throughout this series. So we can dock it over here and have our scene view over here. Now we also want to change a few settings on our canvas just to make sure that it will be compatible with different screens. So over here inside the canvas scaler, we're going to change it to scale with screen size. We're going to change the resolution. So this is full HD, but just reversed because we don't want this in landscape, we want this in portrait. And although your mobile phone can have a higher resolution, this is just a reference, so everything will have the exact ratio. Then we're also going to change the match over here to 0.5, and this is just something that helps us to scale everything, and this is a good value. Another thing we want to do is to click over here on Pixel Perfect, and this will make sure that our UI and our sprites will look good and not be blurry, so make sure to click on this. Next, we want to lock our game into a portrait view. We are going to click on Edit, Project Settings, Player, Resolution and Presentation, and over here where you see Default Orientation, we're going to set it to Portrait, so it will always stay at Portrait and will never rotate if we tilt the device. Obviously, in other games this may be relevant, but for this trivia game and for the UI that we're going to create, we always want this to be in a portrait view. Next, we're going to import a free package from Unity for the UI. This is a basic package that will have some nice UI for the buttons and for different elements of the UI. Again, this is optional. You can create your own UI, and I encourage you to create your own UI and not just to copy everything that I'm doing. But this is what we're going to use for this tutorial. And don't worry, most of the UI is going to be provided to you by packages that I'm going to create and provide in the description. But for all of them, you still need these base UIs to actually work. So we're going to open this Unity asset page. And again, you can find this in the description. This is Sweetland GUI, and it actually looks nice. We have these fun little squishy buttons. So we're going to add it into our game. So simply click over here and follow the instructions. So after you download this, you're going to see it in your assets. So you can click on it, Sweetland GUI, and we're going to import it into the game. Maybe you first need to download this, but then we're going to import it. Once it's imported, you're going to see a folder over here with all of these sprites. So now we're going to be able to use them. Now, as I told you, because we don't want to create this UI from scratch, and I don't want to waste your time on creating different buttons and texts, I'm going to provide you a package with the UI that I created. And again, you can create your own UI if you know how to create UI, but just for time's sake, I'm going to provide you a package. So again, you can go to the description of this video and download a Unity package and then import it into your project. If you don't know how to import Unity packages, you have two ways. One way is to simply right-click, import package, custom package, and then you need to select it from the location it was downloaded. Another way is to simply drag it into the project. So I'm going to drag it into the scene. and drop it over here. We can see that we got one prefab inside of this package. We're going to import. So now we can see this main background prefab over here. But before we actually add it into the scene, we want to make sure that we have TextMesh Pro installed for this project. So we go over here, Window, TextMesh Pro, and we simply click on Import TextMesh Pro Examples and Extras. And if you don't see this entire menu, we can simply go to the Package Manager, and over here in Unity Registry, simply search for TextMesh Pro and then download it and import it into the project. Because if you're going to use this UI that I provided before you install and import TextMesh Pro, you may not see some of the text and it may give you an error. So before you do this, simply make sure that you import TextMesh Pro. And now you can use this asset that I provided because I use TextMesh Pro in this asset. So now we're going to drag it to be a child of the canvas, and you should see this UI. If something is missing, maybe some of this text, it means that you still don't have TextMesh Pro. So just delete this and then import it again, or just drag it again to be a child after you installed TextMesh Pro. So now we're going to change things a bit because we are still not using the fonts and the UI that I'm using. So we're going to expand this and we're going to select these Trivia Shadow, Trivia, Master Shadow, and Master. We're going to select all of them and we're going to make sure that they use the Roboto font. For you, it may use some kind of default font, but just make sure that you click over here and use the Roboto Bold font, because this is the font that I'm using. And again, this is optional. You can have your own UI. Then we're going to set sprites for these buttons. So we're going to expand the buttons. We're going to select these three buttons. We can hold Control and then select all of them. And over here, instead of this non-sprite, we're going to select, we can type inside circle, and we can find this button circle, 250 pixels, and we're going to double click on it, and it's going to set it to be the sprite of these buttons. Now again, this is just a simple UI that I created. You can do whatever you want. The next thing we want to do is create the main menu manager. So basically every scene will have its own manager to manage the different operations inside the scene. We're also going to have some global managers that are going to manage the entire game, but every scene should have its own manager. This is the way we're going to construct this application. So we're going to close this and we're going to create a new empty object. We're going to rename it to main menu manager, and we're going to create a script with the same name. Now that we have this script, we are going to double click on it and open it. And for now, this script is going to be very simple. We're going to create the different methods for clicking on the different buttons that we're going to have in the main menu. So over here, we're going to have three different methods. We're going to copy this 2 more times. We're going to rename these ones to on high score clicked and on options clicked. So these are the different buttons that we're going to have in the main menu. And we need to import the scene manager. So we simply hover over this, show fixes, and we're going to state that we're using the Unity Engine scene management. And this will be added over here, or you can simply type it over here and add the scene management package over here. So now we need to specify the scene that we want to load when these buttons are going to be clicked. So with Scene Manager, we can basically load a new scene. So when we click on the play button, we're going to load the game scene. When we click on the high score button, we're going to load the leaderboards. I don't know why I named this high score. Let's just rename this to leaderboards. And then we also want to open the options scene when we click on the options button. Now make sure that these names that you give over here are the exact name that you have for the scenes. So let's wait for this to compile. So you need to give him the exact names you have over here. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And obviously, when you call this, it's going to go over here and it's going to look for the scenes and it's going to open them. Okay, so these names should be the names you're using over here. Let's just make sure leaderboards, options, yes. And it's case sensitive, so make sure that it's exactly the same. Now, in order to actually invoke and call these functions, we're going to set them in the inspector. So we're going to expand our UI. We can also unpack it from being a prefab. So now it won't affect the actual original prefab. And we're going to select these buttons. First of all, we're going to select the play button. And then over here, we're going to add an on-click event. This may be empty for you, but because this is a package that I created before, it will probably have some kind of event. So simply add this event and then drag the main menu manager script inside. And this basically means that we want to use a method that is inside of this script. And over here, we're going to look for this method. We're going to hover over main menu manager and we're going to use the onPlayClicked method that we created. So this event basically means that when we click on this button, this method is going to be called. And it means that this method is going to be called, and it means that we're going to load the game scene. Now we're going to do the same thing for the rest of the methods. So leaderboards, we add the main menu manager over here, and we use the onLeaderboard click. Then we go to the settings button, we drag the main menu manager, and we select main menu manager on option clicked. Let's save the scene. Let's start our application. So if we click on the play button, it will move to the play scene, to the game scene, and we can see it over here. Obviously, it's still empty. We also don't have any way to go back right now. If we click on the high score, it will go to the leaderboard scene. And if we click on the options, it will open the options scene. Obviously, all of these scenes are empty right now, but in the next episodes, we're going to add all of these scenes. And obviously, the main scene that we're going to be spending time on is the play scene, the game scene, where the actual game logic is going to happen. But of course, we're also going to pull data from the database and display it in the high score scene. We're going to have some basic settings in the options scene. And we also have our game over scene, which will only be available once the game is over. So that's all for this episode. Please leave a like if this was helpful. You can also subscribe. So I'll see you next time.